We are we're so thrilled to have everyone joining us tonight for a very, exciting and very important, topic: building generational wealth. And of course, for Kemba and I, who have been doing it for some time, we principally chose real estate as the method to build wealth. Absolutely, there are other ways. If you're joining us tonight, we are so thrilled to have you. We're covering the first part of what we have 4 sessions this month. And of course, everyone wants to celebrate Black History in February. And so, we've jumped on the bandwagon, and we've decided that why not focus on building generational wealth within, the Black community, within, people as color and Caribbean descent. And so we're going to begin tonight by first asking, maybe if you could shut off your phones, we appreciate it, so that we don't necessarily get disrupted. If you don't have a pen and pad or something to write with, maybe grab that right now. Make sure that, you stay focused and locked in and key. And if you have questions, we're absolutely going to try and answer some of those later on, but you can always type them in the chat or write them down so that we can make sure that we get to them. But let's begin with finding out where some of you are from. Maybe just type in the chat right now, where you are, if you're here in the GTA like we are, or wherever it is that you are, so that we can kind of get an idea of where others. I see Hamilton. Maybe Kemba, you can read. Oh, Brampton would be. I'm Brampton, Mississauga. I started right here in Peel, Brampton, Mississauga. Ajax.
Listen.
Let's see how far we have reached. Etobicoke, right where home to Kemba there. Dawn says, I'm Dawn from Milton. Millbrook. Where's Millbrook?
Bonsoir from Quebec.
Yes, Quebec. Caledon. I lived there before too. So Caledon here is part of Peel. Fergus, North York.
Scarborough.
I did see Scarborough a few times. So we are largely the GTA area here. So
awesome.
So thank you again, as I said, for joining us. And of course, if you're in the GTA, then some of the information that we're going to share today is definitely personally relevant to you. We also have some giveaways, right, Kemba? We love to gift to you. We're gifting knowledge, of course, and most importantly tonight, but we do have some gifts. Kemba, do you want to maybe just mention the items that we're going to share later?
Yeah, so there is the wealth building series. There is a Amazon gift card. There is some coaching sessions. And we have some that everyone's going to get a wealth building guidebook. And we also are giving away our Credit Repair Simplified. So if you have to work on your credit, it's a book that we put together, and we'll send that out to you as well. So everyone will get the book. The first 3 prizes, though, only 3 people will win that tonight.
And that's okay. Yeah. We love giveaways. So for every session, we will have giveaways. So if you're here with us for the duration of February, you will have multiple opportunities to win. I do like the book, and I just want you to know that even if you have amazing credit, our book is still a good tool to have, because there's no reason that we can't always use information about our credit, because if you've got good credit and you're not using it, we want to teach you how to do that, right? And so the credit repair book that we have is an excellent tool as well to have. So, but let's maybe start with a little bit about who we are. Kemba and I are sisters-in-law. So, because we've been dubbed the Williams sisters before, but we are
Canadian Williams sisters.
Yes, we're the Williams sisters. And so that's how we share the same surname. We're married to brothers, and I have 3 beautiful daughters, all growing up very quickly. And one of the reasons why I decided that I wanted to focus on building wealth and use, no other than what we're going to discuss tonight, real estate, because I I'm Jamaican born, came to Canada, and my family is not going to pass on an inheritance to me. So I know that I'm going to have to build. But when I came to Canada, the land, and I heard many adults as I grew up talk about how plentiful the opportunities are in America, Canada. And I have made sure that since I've come to Canada, that I have taken advantage of what there is to offer. And I started with first, doing something that was very unfamiliar to my family, which was going on to post-secondary and completing that, and then building from there and buying my very first property as I graduated from university, where I'm going to share that story after. So Kemba, maybe just share us a few facts about yourself.
Well, I am St. Lucian Canadian, and I kind of have lived in both places. I started in Canada. I grew up in the St. Lucia, and I came back when I started university. So I'm kind of a transplant. I'm married with 3 children, and they are really my reason for thinking about generational wealth, thinking about building wealth. Before I had kids, I was interested in real estate. I bought a triplex, in which that's the story I'll share with you tonight. But it's always been something I've been interested in. It's just once that thought of that next generation came in, it was all about what do I do to help them get be better off in life. So yeah, I've had a long career in banking, and over the last couple of years, I've left that to focus on my passion, which is what we're doing here tonight. So
we love real estate.
Huh?
No, I just said we love real estate.
Yes, we love real estate, and we love sharing and teaching and helping other people understand and learn what they can do to get in. So that's what we're going to do tonight.
Yeah, and I didn't speak to it, but I come to real estate as a former school teacher, and so my goal was always education and working with people. I love impacting people's lives in positive ways, and I don't think there is any better way to do it than to help them build wealth and build knowledge through something that I know and know very well, so that they can impact and have an impact on the next generation, right? And change. You're going to see. Our goal is to, we are wanting to change the narrative for Black families, right? We are, statistically, we are definitely at the bottom, and we have a bit of hard work to do. So our services and how we help people has come from our long history of investing in real estate. I was 17 when I wanted to buy my first property, which I couldn't figure out how to do then, but I quickly did find someone at about 22 when I was graduating from university, and they helped me do that. So along the way, I've learned how to set up rentals, short and long term, put in place, tenancies, because I must say, when I first bought my first rental, I was nervous, and I had no idea, but I wasn't going to let that hold me back. And so over time, as I developed knowledge and skill on how to do it and do it well, it became evident to others, and friends and family were saying, hey, Andrea, Kemba, how do you guys do it? And so we realized that it was necessary, as we built Keen, it was necessary to teach others how to tenant their properties, or to help them do it. And so we do offer services that are paid, as well as you are here tonight with some of our free educational seminars that we offer. We have podcasts that help teach. We coach and educate people through that means as well. And along the way, as we have done it for ourselves numerous times, we've also learned to help other clients through our consulting as well, how to turn, what you may already be living in and own as your principal resident, how to generate income through that, or how to take it and use it to build generational wealth by buying a second or a third property. And so that's how our consulting arm was born as well. So really, we have a breadth of information to share with you if you are looking to become very successful, either by owning your first or adding on to that. So I think, I mean, Kemba, would you add anything to that? I mean,
Just a quick disclaimer, everything that we're sharing is based on our experiences and what we've learned from actually doing and investing in real estate. Real estate there are risks associated with investing, so you just have to be aware. Make sure you get independent advice when you're investing, and make sure you're aware and you understand those risks. And we teach and we talk about what the risks associated with investing are, but just want to make sure that
yeah, and pretty much anything you do in life has risks, right? We attended a seminar ourselves last night with an amazing host on that, and it was about cryptocurrency and NFTs, and there's risk there as well. So it is, and Ashley, she did a fantastic job helping us understand that part of entering into something different and new is understanding the risks, right? So before we move on to generational wealth, maybe you can tell us something unique or interesting about yourself that maybe Kemba and I obviously don't know many of you, but just type something in the chat that maybe 1 or 2 words that tells us something special or unique about you. It doesn't have to be real estate related.
I can start.
Yeah. Well, I know one of the things that I'm not going to type it in the chat. I'll just say one of the things that I like about me that I find unique is that I love to take something old, like an old piece of furniture, and turn it into something new. So, rather than throwing it out, I might turn it into either resurfacing it and making it new again and beautiful. I'll do even with light fixtures or, anything that I can flip and turn it around. I'm crafty.
She's crafty.
Crafty in many ways.
She can create
I
lots
love creating delicious vegan meals. I see there from Ken.
Nice.
Yeah. So let's see some of these chats. Let's see. I want to read a few of them. I love dragon boating. Okay.
That was me.
That would have been something probably you could do here, even locally during our lockdown.
Trading stocks, Shireen.
Trading stocks. I need to talk to you, Shireen. And Shireen shares our last name, Williams. Let's see. So, yeah. So, you know what? It's when we're meeting people for the first time, it's always kind of neat to learn more about each other. And before you attended, if you filled out the Eventbrite, some of you told us, sorry, Kemba, you had.
No, I see we have someone who learn to make tumblers. Verona has bought a second home and is looking to purchase more. Good for you, Verona.
Awesome. Someone else is handy too. Is that
Stacey's very handy?
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so Kemba, these were some of the responses and the like the things that you said that building generational wealth meant to you. And because I really think we have to have a strong why in anything that we do. If we have a strong why, we're more likely to persevere through the hard times, the difficulties, the fails, the negative words that we might hear and experiences that we might have. And so there's I don't know, probably about 20 different things that you said: freedom, financial literacy, family, charity, the advantages it gives you, wealth, community, stability, rich, grandchildren, change. I mean, these are some of the reasons why it's important to talk about and build generational wealth. There are probably just as many more as there are people here tonight. I see there's quite a few of you that have joined us. And I mean, you might recognize something on here, or you might think that we didn't add or we're missing something that you're thinking of. But I thought this gave a pretty good idea. Someone said, I've been a homeowner for 10 years plus. Yeah, if I tell you how long I've been a homeowner, then you'll start to figure out my age. Actually, I bought my very first home back in 93. So you're going to soon see that. So Kemba, let's maybe talk about what the definition of generational wealth is. But before we do that, maybe you can give us what's one word that you would use to define in the chat. You can always type it in to define generational wealth. Like when you think of generational wealth, what do you think? Or even if you can't think of a word to describe, like someone said, freedom. I absolutely agree. Freedom, Octavia.
Of
Let's see.
freedom. And wealth is really
Firm
what you,
foundation.
yes,
Good. Legacy.
it's the resources that you can pass down from one generation to the next. What you won't use for your retirement, you're going to preserve and pass on to that next generation, whether it be family or community. It doesn't necessarily always have to be money. It could be a legacy of some kind, but
It'd
it
be
is
knowledge. We're giving it to you
knowledge.
tonight. Like it's
Mhm.
we have to teach the next generation as well what we're learning today, because part of the reason it was harder for me to get started was I didn't have that knowledge or that experience from my family. Stability. Someone says they have property in Jamaica. So please share with us that property. Is it a property that I can rent? Will I be able to rent it out when I go there? Someone said financial freedom from the shackles of debt. Yes, I agree. Independence, financial security. So it's all of that. And the definition here that we've put in is it's a wealth or resources that are passed down from one generation to the next, often referred to as family wealth or legacy, right? And I saw someone said legacy and transference, right? Passing it on. So maybe share with them our roadmap. This is something that you may already have a great understanding of, but we just thought it's really important. We asked you to have a note, pad and pen, please. You might want to jot down some of this.
In terms of, how to get going in real estate, you want to establish that plan. What is it you're trying to achieve? Do you need a place to live yourself? Are you looking for a secondary property? Why are you looking for that? And what's going to get you through those up times when, your tenant's calling and it's really, not an opportune time, or you're overwhelmed, there's a roof to be repaired. You have to really establish a plan of how you're going to get things done. You want to understand the risk. We mentioned risk earlier. So there are risks of loss when you purchase real estate. It's a very big commitment, whether you're buying one or you're buying 10. And there's different ways to mitigate or reduce your risk. You want to be tax efficient from the start. A lot of times when you're buying your first property, it makes sense to buy it as a personal asset, and you're buying it under your own name. And it does make sense to a certain extent to do it for maybe one or two properties. But then you want to consider, if you're going to buy a lot of properties, are you doing it in the best, most tax efficient way? And especially when you're thinking of transferring to the next generation, that tax efficiency is important. You want to think about growing your network, because as much as, there's lots of talk about properties out there, and you can look it up on MLS as much as you want. Having a good, strong network of people who can help you, from realtors to brokers, mortgage brokers, bankers, people who will help you get access to the capital that you need. You want to start making those connections, because that's how you can get access to, one, the right properties, and two, the capital. So you need to do a lot of research when you're investing. You can buy a home, and in Toronto, it's very challenging, but there are parts of Ontario and Canada that you can buy a home that's more affordable. And doing that research will help mean that you're not just speculating, you're not just buying something, where you have no plan in action to know how it's going to be affordable for you in the long run. It is really expensive to buy in Toronto specifically, but you have to have that plan, and not just buy something that won't be able to be sustainable. And you also have to continuously invest in yourself and your property. By investing in yourself, we mean that even after you've gotten that first property, or when you're looking towards getting that first property, the learning that you do, the education that you give yourself, is investing in yourself to make sure that you're doing things in the most efficient way, making it the easiest as possible for yourself. And then when we say invest in your property, buying real estate is a passive, or considered passive. There's varying degrees of passive, and we talk a little bit about that in the courses, but you want to be able to make sure that property will last. If it's an investment for the next generation, it can't go into disrepair and lose value over time. So making sure that you upkeep and maintain that property, and you can afford to do that. That's part of your plan, budgeting for your investments. So you always have to invest in yourself and your property. And on those little trees on the side, those are things that are also important to help in terms of that transfer of wealth to the next generation. So insurance, there is property insurance, but there's life insurance. There's all sorts of other different types of insurances, which as we go, not in this presentation, but insurance is an important part of that transfer of wealth. And it's important to understand how it plays a role. And obviously having a will and an estate plan is a huge part of, before you even become a property owner, having a will is important. If you have any assets, any bank accounts, any savings, any RSPs, any of that, having a will and how that estate will be handled is important. You don't want disputes over it. Maybe in the chat, how many people already have a will right now? We heard that some people are already property owners. Do you already have a will? Maybe that's something to think about, but it's important to definitely have a will, because it's a huge part of your, it's on my list. Very good. Yes.
Yeah, it's worth it
I've
to
been
even
told.
start with a will. I mean, absolutely, the bigger your asset base and the more you've established, the more you're going to want the lawyer involved. But even if you start with something that you create initially, it's better to have something in place than nothing, because the will is not just about assets alone. It could also be about care, or if something was to happen to you, what you'd want to like children and or your health and so forth.
Yeah, and just to note, in that previous slide, we said, why is it important to talk about generational wealth? If you have a will and an estate plan and insurance and your children don't know anything about it, it's really hard for them to understand, if you were to pass on suddenly, what to do, or what your expectations were to do. Talking about sitting down, with a will maybe seem like a challenging thing to do, but it's important, especially when children and family is at an age where they can understand and sort of start to make notes about what your expectations are and what you have and where you have it. Sometimes, a problem with a will is not so much that it exists, but nobody knows where it is. So having someone have a copy of that will and so on is important. So these are hugely important things when you start to acquire assets like real estate. And that all is part of how you transfer that wealth. Does it have to be an expensive lawyer? Not at all. There's varying types of wills that you can get. Obviously, the more complex your estate becomes and the more assets you acquire, and maybe even the more decisions you make about how that estate will be divided, is the more complex you might get the will. And so therefore
A will simply could just be, I want it all paid out to my children equally. And it doesn't have to be anything, all my assets. So it doesn't have to be complex, but as soon as you start to make it complex, it adds to the price. Kemba, we have to move on.
Yeah. So what is this, Andrea?
Well, part of, we said to make notes, and this is absolutely an area that you want to make notes. You did a fantastic job, Kemba, on the roadmap. And, in real estate, we realized very quickly that in order to have and be successful and to get on track, we had to develop a system, a set of information and tools that made us successful. And we term that the knack. So that's getting the knowledge that you need, and knowledge if you are going it alone, you know that it's a lot of information, a lot of stuff to process. And so it's important to have the information, right? Then it's also very, very important, next to information, is the networking. And we ourselves have had to build along the way a network of people, experts, that have information that helps make the process possible for us. So that could include our team of experts, include typically our realtor or mortgage brokers, our accountants and lawyers. Along there, there's all kinds of others, we have appraisers, inspectors, and so on, but that network is key. They're going to help make sure that all the purchases that we make are successful. Analysis. So we are not, we already opened with saying, our disclaimer about how risky and the fact that investments in general bear risks. To reduce risk, you do all of this, you have knowledge, you have that team of experts, you analyze every opportunity that comes your way before you just jump in and get going head first and sort of have no idea, and all of a sudden you're too deep and you can't fix it. We propose always making sure that you understand what it is that you're buying and how beneficial it is to you based on the needs that you have. Is it that it can meet the cash flow needs, or is it that you're looking for appreciation and it meets the needs that you want to have that property or that asset appreciate? And then, of course, I didn't have this at the beginning, but along the way, I needed coaching. I needed others that could mentor and provide the knowledge that I didn't have and the success systems that I didn't have to make sure that beyond my first home, when I started adding other properties to my portfolio, that I was doing it and it was going to be successful for myself and family. And lastly is the keys. And the keys are both the keys that you get for that property, but also all the tools and the resources and the strategies that you will need to ensure that you take action. Because I think that without taking action, knowing everything that you need to, and getting analyzing deals and looking at having that team of experts, it's irrelevant having all of that if you don't take action. And so we want to make sure that when we provide you with all the information that you need, that we can help see you through to taking the next steps, which is in most cases buying a property, right? Ownership. Kemba,
Sure.
did I miss anything?
No.
Anyone here so far that already, I see a few of you that have willfully shared that you own, but anyone that already owns their own principal property and or they own a rental property? No, some people, yes. Thank you, Martine, and you made it in, yes. So I see quite a few people said yes and yes. So yes, they own and they have a, that's Marcel, thank you. They also have a rental property. So I see a lot of principal residents. Good, because that's where we begin. Generational wealth is more feasible and possible when you own your principal. So fantastic. Continuing on, Kemba. So we have.
I had a story in my head when you were talking about coaching. No, we'll get to it. I'll share it later. So our goal of this is to improve home ownership and investment ownership among the BIPOC communities in Canada by 20% in the next 10 years, or 2% a year. We're going to share some stats with you, which are surprising and quite disappointing, and we want to improve that, definitely. So we've seen
these are not the stats that we want to have, over time, but there are the stats that exist today.
Yeah, and it's just we're constantly at the lowest point even when we control for things like income. So that earning less than 50,000, it's very hard to own property, especially in the GTA. But we want to find ways to help people who want to invest, who want to be owners, to find ways to do that. And there's so many programs to help with that. And when we talk more about that, but in general, it's just we need to do more so that we're not in that lowest bracket of ownership across the different ethnic groups in Canada. As you can see, there are groups who are 95% of them are owners in Canada. 95% are owners. And we're coming from a place where only 23% of our people own property, and that's a really low statistic, when in the same income class it's 73%. So we have to figure out, what do we need to do differently? In there are challenges like lower income, implicit biases in housing and finance. I mean, when I started out trying to get a loan, I was a banker. I was working at the bank, and the bank sort of looked at me and was like, I don't know about that. I ended up going to a mortgage broker to get my first mortgage. So, whether it is that I was young or my income wasn't high enough, but I was partnering with someone else, so it wasn't just one income. But there were so many things about that experience which said to me, well, how come I was able to get it somewhere else and not here? Broader economic inequalities, as I said, we've been disadvantaged. We don't necessarily always have inheritances to get us going. But this is why the conversation about generational wealth is so important, because if we can provide some more inheritances for the next generation, they will be in a better position to be owners and to have that wealth and even build on that wealth that you're able to pass down, so that your third and fourth generations after you are in a position to not think so much about just tackling bills. Because somebody in the chat said earlier, one of the things he wants to do is not be, what was it, fighting to pay bills. Yeah, we don't want to just be paying bills. We want to be flourishing and thriving and having ourselves focus on other higher level.
Kimba, someone has asked in the chat, just so that we can wrap up, is the stats the same in 2019 to 2021 because the census shows here 2016 for the stats.
In everything that I'm reading, the stats are not necessarily improving. So I don't have a 2021 census.
They're not improving like the prices of homes have improved. They're much slower improvements. So so I think that it's a good point to wonder, is 3 or 4 to 5 years later, is it still the same? And yes, we're probably talking, if you look back historically, the Black community has always been at the bottom in many of the categories that we speak to when we speak to wealth or income or education.
So all that notwithstanding, we're in a different time, and we have to focus on ourselves building wealth, and real estate is definitely the main tool that we think is the way to do that. Will the new stress test play a role in homeownership for Blacks? It can, because of the fact that, if our incomes are not as high, it's harder to qualify. But that's why, we talk about rentals and how to have rental income and use that as part of the calculation towards ownership, because that will be another source of income that helps. But yes, the stress test will affect us if our income across the board. And when we look at the stats on income, we are also at the bottom for income across the board.
Or we have to look to more unconventional ways of qualifying or getting approvals. Because as Kemba said, going to her bank that she worked for and did business with, they often, frown and turn us down fairly quickly. So if you're thinking that the bank is going to be the principal way to get a mortgage or to get multiple mortgages, it's likely not going to be the best method, right? And I agree, Kemba, absolutely. Rental income or income that you generate even through your principal residence, if you rent out a basement or a room, that can all add to the qualifying, the ability to qualify and improve your income numbers.
So yeah, it's really a discouraging stat, but it's the truth, and we have to look at it and see what we can do to overcome. And like Andrea is saying, there's alternative ways to do that. Tonight we're here to talk about mindset, and we think that having that right mindset, adding the right methods, and taking action will get you the results. It seems like a challenging time, and it is, no doubt. But we still have to work towards the results that we're looking for. If ownership is what we want, it's what we have to work towards. So in terms of the ways to build wealth, this particular workshop is very focused, and our main form of wealth building has always been in real estate, but we don't want to say that that's the only way ever. There are other ways, like, buying stocks.
Well, maybe tell us some of the ways that you're building wealth, because what's familiar to us is real estate, and statistically, it's proven that 90% of millionaires are built through real estate. So I just thought the odds were greater to be successful. But what other ways are you building wealth, like outside of real estate? Because some of you did say that you had your first and you own your principal residence. Anyone has another way that they're building wealth? Crypto. We just attended a seminar last night on crypto and NFTs. So yes, excellent. So that's another way. I thought I saw someone mention stocks. Oh yeah, there, stocks earlier, the stock market. Yeah. So crypto stocks, someone has IT consulting. So anyone else with businesses that they might be running of their own, or a side hustle? Someone's been trying for years now to get into real estate investment. Well, Paulette, we're here to tell you that you can, and we can help with that. So Kemba,
Chantal, you said yes. How are you doing
that? So Kemba, what were you saying a moment ago? Because someone missed that.
You can't ask me what I said a moment ago.
It's gone from memory. Well, we're just saying, I think your conversation was really that real estate is not the only way, but this is the way that you have.
That's the way we have actually seen success in building wealth. I mean, the stocks, absolutely, having a stock portfolio where you invest, whether it be RSPs or directly, we're not in a position to advise on how that, and this is not what the event is. We just want to say that there are multiple ways to build wealth. We have found the most success in building wealth through real estate.
Yeah. Online is absolutely a great place today. So like someone's got a business online. If your business is online today, you're absolutely going to have much better success, especially with the pandemic. So the reason, or some of the reasons why real estate is an excellent way to build wealth is look at all the benefits. I mean, some of them you may be familiar with, while others you may not know as well. So I think that we all know that it's livable, right? But and it appreciates, but it's leverageable. That's huge, right? You oftentimes when you buy a property, you might have some money to put into it, and the rest you go and borrow from a bank or a financial institution. Well, you can do that as many times as you can qualify based on income, especially if the property itself can generate income. That property that generates income is not going to count towards your debt to income ratio. So you can qualify for multiple properties as long as the properties are self-sufficient. They're tax deductible and deferrable. You can have passive and active, and we can always, some of these concepts here, we're going to cover more in depth, or you can always find out more or ask us more at a later time. But definitely passive is, for example, if you want to invest in REITs, some of you mentioned stocks and crypto. Well, you don't have to invest in real estate and buy and own it, where you're managing and taking care of it. You can buy it through real estate trusts like the REIT, right? And then of course, there's cash flow, it's sellable, so that if you're selling today, obviously we're in a seller's market where sellers are making hundreds of thousands each time they're selling. If they wait another month or 5, they're going to probably again make another 50 to 100,000 easily in the current market we're in. So Kemba, next slide.
Andrea, I don't know if you mentioned appreciable, but appreciable means just
I did at the outset. I think that one of the things that we're going to see is that if you look at over year over year, or even over the last 10 years, things have gone crazy, from $500,000 that you might have paid for it to 10 years later, it's now worth 1.5 mil. So it's an amazing asset to hold and own. And this is why generational wealth built through real estate is, very attainable for us as people of color and Black women and men and families, right? So Kemba said that we would share our stories because I think, as we said, the topic is mindset. We each come from different places. We each have, started in different ways. Some of us are own our first, while others don't. But each of us can absolutely learn something tonight, and possibly over the next 4 sessions. Well, we have 3 more sessions following this to help you get started in real estate if you aren't, or help you multiply that portfolio. So when this lovely dream home here was my very first property that I purchased, and it was in Streetsville, Mississauga. And I was proud. It was 1993. I remember back to when I bought, when I was getting ready to do this. I mean, I said originally at the outset, I told you that I wanted to do it at 17, and I just had no idea. There was this house down the street from where I lived that sat vacant for forever. And I was like, how could I buy it? And I just didn't know how, right? I mean, I think at 17, I was just getting an approval for a car. I didn't know how to do it for a home. So a few years later, when I was graduating from university, I thought, okay, I have to do it now. I already had my first child, and I was a single mom. And I thought, I'm not here in this country just to, exist and pay debt. And, I wanted to build something amazing. And so I bought my first property knowing that I wanted to build on it. I didn't know how I was going to buy another one. I mean, I was 22 years old. I had no idea. I thought I'll start with my first and then work from there. The house was 100,000. It seemed like massive then to me, just like to you today. I'm sure that when you think of $750,000 or $500,000 properties that we're hearing of in the GTA, it sounds crazy. But just think back to 1993. It felt like overwhelming to me, but I'd saved some money. I had my 5% down. I was qualifying as a first-time home buyer. I had my $5,000 to close, because don't forget, you need your down payment, but you also need your closing costs. And it wasn't that there was anyone around me telling me, Andrea, you can't do this. It's just that I didn't know how to do it, because I didn't know anyone in my family and friends that were doing it at the time. So there was just those, obstacles that I had to overcome. I went to the bank and they said no. I was like, no, this was and I'm not going to name any banks. It was the bank that I was banking at the time. They said no. And so I thought, okay, well, you know what? I got to figure out another way. And so I went and I talked to a few people, and they introduced me to a realtor who was like, we can do this. You can do this, Andrea. I'll help you. We'll look for a property, but I'll also help bring to you a mortgage broker. I never even met the mortgage broker. I didn't go to a bank because remember, they said no. So I had a mortgage broker who I never saw. I just gave the paperwork to. And by the way, this is 1993. I did not have my first full-time job yet. I was graduating from school, and my first full-time job was to start in September of that year. I was a school teacher at the time. I was graduating and coming out as a teacher. And today, in today's world, that stuff doesn't exist. There's no way they would approve me on a letter, confirming that I had a job in September. Back in this, I think it was June, I was buying this property. So times were different, things were different, but I was just so thrilled that this realtor lined me up with the mortgage broker and I think my first mortgage was with MCAP. Definitely not a traditional or one of the top 5 banks. There are many other lenders and financial institutions out there that do provide mortgaging. And yes, interest rates back then were a lot higher, back in the early 1990s. So I was probably paying like around 8% interest. But it was 100,000, right? It's all relative. And the numbers all worked. Like, I think that today a room for rent in Brampton is about the price, like 700-800 is what I was paying on my mortgage back then. So the closing
Wow.
costs, yeah, like I love to chuckle and think back, because I'm like, wow, how times have changed and how things are different. But that was all overwhelming to me. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I have a small child, I have my student loans, and honestly, I was being pushed to do it even before my student loans, because someone said, hey, your student loans don't show on your credit yet. It'll make it easier for, approval. And I was like, okay, then I got to get it done. And so I pushed through, and this realtor and this mortgage broker and the lawyer and everyone made it all happen. And all of a sudden I was moving into my first home. 3 months later, I was starting my first job as a teacher. And like, my dreams were coming true. And I'm telling you, that was my dream home. Look at it. It had no garage, but it had, windows, it had doors, it had a nice little path.
It was yours.
Oh,
It was yours. It was
it was
yours.
mine. It had a
Yeah.
backyard. You can't see it because I was attached on both sides. And in order to get to it, you either had to come around on the main street. I backed onto Argentia then. I don't know if anyone knows Mississauga. This house was on Faulkner. And I mean, I was elated. I was moving into my first home. I was happy. It was the greatest experience of my life. And, being in Canada as an immigrant, I was elated and happy. So that's my story. Kemba has hers. And I mean, of course, 8 years later, when I sold it and met my husband, we had some money to move on to our next property with. And, so it was a great way to start. Like, you have to get started.
Yeah. And so my story is a little different, because I kind of went about it in an unconventional way, if you think. This was a purchase that I made in partnership with someone else. So it was my first purchase, and the other person had already purchased. So they were taking equity out of the home that they had already purchased to do this new purchase. So we had to pay a 20% down. That was different. Andrea was able to do a 5% down. This purchase took me 2 years to complete from the time I started looking. And I feel that this is why we talk about the network and the partners that you work with are so important. The realtor that I worked with on that deal, she was tireless. Like, when I say that we showed
2 years,
her,
yeah.
we showed her so many properties, and we went to so many properties, and we kept asking, and we kept, and it was just like, sure, when you're ready, I'll make an appointment. She was so patient, and she was so good. And I actually bought my second house with her because of that, because she just took the time to make sure that we got what we were looking for. And
Sorry,
even
Kemba, someone raised their hands. I'm sorry, I just noticed it. I didn't know. Like, what's a raised hand? Someone's asking a question?
yes.
Okay, we come back to it. Kemba, remember to come back to the raised hand.
Okay. Yeah, and so this started the journey because I wanted to own where I lived, and coming out of university, I worked, started a job in Toronto, and this was a way to start out and build wealth. I wanted another source of income. This house was a triplex, so it was possible for me and my partner at the time to share the main level and rent out upstairs and rent out downstairs. And so, to start out by buying, say, your dream home, it may not be where you start, but if you get something,
or it might look different. It might look like Andrea's initial dream.
Yeah, it may look like Andrea's initial dream, but the fact is that wherever you start, you're able to build from there. So I think, we have to think of what our end goal is, but at the same time, what are the stepping stones we need to make to get there? This was a great experience in terms of just taking the leap, but I can say one of the things that I could have done more was, this house I owned for 10 years. And I had all these thoughts and dreams about doing something else. I was like, oh, but I was overwhelmed. I was like, oh, there's tenant problems, there's a furnace issue, there's a roof that had to be fixed. I felt like, oh my goodness, how am I keeping on top of all this? And I felt like, knowing what I know now, if I had met a coach, if I had met someone who could have said to me, hey, this is an easy way to deal with this. Hey, this is an easy way to deal with this. And I would have not felt overwhelmed by, making sure that this property was cared for and that the tenants were okay and so on. And it was a learning experience for me. I really felt like if I had known more going in and had more, say, advice on tenanting. I remember the first tenant who we interviewed for that property, I think we closed in August. We had this nice couple walk up to us and say, oh, hey, we'd like to rent your place. They look like, grandpa and grandma, and they look so nice and friendly. Didn't take a deposit, didn't do any, proper checks. It just said, oh, you seem lovely. Sure. Okay. They walked away. We signed a lease. First of the month came, nobody showed up. Second of the month came, nobody showed up. I'm like, what? We're waiting for this rent to help us pay this mortgage. And it was quite overwhelming. Those people were not honest. And basically, maybe a month or two later, I saw some invoices coming from Ontario Works. So they literally took our lease that we signed with them, took it to Ontario Works to say, hey, we're getting a new place. We'd like to get the whatever funding that they get for that. And then we ended up without a tenant. So we went a month without. So there were a lot of things that happened that were like learning as I went. And they made me feel very overwhelmed versus being able to feel confident in what I was doing so that I knew I could move faster, because I could tell you I would be 10 years ahead of where I am now if I had known more to act faster. I feel like as much as it was a great experience to buy and own and be a landlord in my 20s, I definitely know that having someone who could have been more guidance at the time would have helped me do more earlier. And as you can see, the prices 10 years ago was a different category to where they are now. And so now we have to just use different strategies to be able to get in and own real estate now. We have to definitely use different real estate, different strategies, sorry. What a story. I'm intending to purchase a multiplex as my first property. Would love to learn more about that. Absolutely.
We encourage the multis.
Yeah. It's definitely a way that you can get approved sooner for more money. And we absolutely need that in this type of environment that we're in.
Kemba, I don't know how to find that raised hand, and I don't know what it was they were raising their hands about.
If you type your question in the chat, we'll try to get to it. Yes,
please put your questions in the chat. And Kemba is no longer with the bank. She has left the bank since, not because they didn't approve her, even though I would have left. I did leave my bank at the time when they didn't approve me. I'm feisty. You don't approve me, well, I'll find a new bank. How much is a value now? And someone's saying, what REITs do you know of? We do have some partners that we work with for REITs, so we can always share that too. One of the companies is called Equiton, EQUITON, and they offer REITs as well. How much is value now? I'm not sure what that question is specifically. I think that value of that property now is what he's asking your property, Kemba. Would you say that triplex? What would it be worth today?
I would say in today's market, that triplex is over $1 million.
Yes, because that's Toronto. And I don't think my townhome would be, quite up there. Maybe it's, I don't know, could it be under 700,000? I don't know. I haven't really looked at the prices of.
There's nothing on the market right now in Mississauga that you can find that's a home, not a condo, that's under 500,000. At least I haven't seen much. So it must be over 5, maybe over 6, maybe over 7 if it's been redone.
I think the last time I looked, they were in the 700,000 range, and that was probably last year. So absolutely, and that's and largely because those properties actually are across the street now from a newly built townhomes, and so they've done work in the neighborhood. And down the street on Credit View, there's also semi-detached homes that, so all of those things being built in the area has added value to that property in that area.
So what somebody was asking, do your mortgages have to be with the same lender? Absolutely not. You can have 5 mortgages with 5 different lenders.
And I think I have 2 mortgages with one lender, but pretty much all of them are with different lenders. I think the only lender I'm not with
Found
is
this for
BMO.
7 and sold for 9. Yeah, it's this environment is very different, but at the same time, there's still ways that you can invest in real estate, maybe not in the locations where you'd like to start. But if you don't start, it's going to be hard to find yourself in the location where you want to.
Oh,
So
someone's telling me how to find the raised hand. Oh, they just don't know how. I'm very good at real estate, but I am not good at technology. I'm still on the call. I'm happy. I got on the call today. Kemba, how many times did you lose me?
yeah, it's challenging. So one of the things, just in terms of takeaways from our stories, we leveraged to borrow. I mean, we borrowed to buy. So leveraging is part of it. You can borrow up to almost 100%, and this is in certain circumstances. Please don't take this to the bank, but you can borrow almost up to 100% in terms of as a first-time buyer, you can borrow up to 95%. You can also, maybe get some family financing and give them options to own a portion.
Again, there's
so many
unconventional ways, because I think
unconventional ways that you can get into.
because you
and
can
so
partner and have the partner bring the money to the table, and you are the mortgaging person, right? So there's definitely ways to get into property ownership without having capital, but you have to have some other assets, good credit, good income.
So there are a few other takeaways as we move on, because we don't want to go too much over time. We leaned on knowledgeable experts. We look for multiple streams of income, and we were building wealth with appreciation. So these are the things you look for in what you're looking to buy. Some of the things we didn't talk about so much, in Andrea, maybe you can share.
Well, we're talking about mindset. So you have to be willing to make some changes to accomplish your goals. Delayed gratification it's just delayed. It's not, forever and ever. It might be for 6 months to a year to get the down payments, set aside, or it might be 3 to 5 years to build the portfolio, so that, during that period of time, you may have to be uncomfortable. You might have to sacrifice. You may not take the annual vacation. You might have to make some changes. I think many of us it's accustomed to some of what I'm saying right now, because the last 18 months to almost 2 years, we've all been making changes, and we were forced because of the pandemic. But we're saying, how much are you willing to make some changes in the short term to allow for your self to start getting into property ownership and building generational wealth? We will show you and help you understand some of the innovative ways to buy properties and to own multiple properties. And of course, when things aren't going well, which many times they don't, be willing to make change, right? If one thing that I've established and done did not go well, there's no way Andrea is giving up. I'm going to figure out one way, whether it's I go to my coach or my mentor, I talk to Kemba, or I talk to my husband. I'm going to figure out a solution in a way to make sure that I'm successful at accomplishing whatever it is. Like, even like Kemba, that tenant you didn't find a tenant. There are many months where it doesn't quite work out exactly the way you plan with tenants, and you find a solution, right? So be willing to delay gratification for a short period of time to enable your goals to be realized.
Absolutely. And pivot, be willing to pivot, right? In the face of whatever is happening, it's part of change, right? You have to maybe make another plan. I'm looking forward to get silent investors and co-owners to sign on a home to increase the purchase price.
And part of what we do, and we talk about NAC, the networking, join our Facebook group. I think, Marcia, if you can just drop in the chat, the Facebook group, join the Facebook group, because that's where you can begin to connect and meet, and we can help you establish, because sometimes we know we have people that come to us with their deals or with their opportunities, or looking to partner, so that you can find good, solid individuals that will help you get into ownership in over and over, right? Because we're not just asking you to do this for your own residence alone, but also to own a second, own a third if need be, or if possible.
Yes. So,
and so we've given you, like we focused a little bit, as we said today, on mindset, and we're absolutely going to hope that many of you will choose to join us in our next 3 parts of this series, so that you can gain and get more information, because part of what some of you are thinking, and myself included, like, where can I buy, or where can I get started? And we talk about, locations to buy, and we look at, how to build that network or that team. Through our wealth building series, we being asked time and time again, how do we do it? Well, we've created this amazing series that can help you do right from the basics, because before you can begin buying real estate or buying, your second or your third, you have to take a look at where you're at. We have to focus on doing some of the foundational things, such as budgeting, getting rid of debt. And not all debt, because I have debt. My mortgages and my properties that I own, and Kemba and I own together, and that we own through our corporations, they all have a mortgage balance. So we're talking about the debt that you may have for a car loan or credit cards or lines of credit that are not constructive, or that they're not being paid by the income that you're generating from your properties that you own. So that type of debt you absolutely want to get rid of, because if you ever look at your credit card debt, it's telling you that it's going to take you 100 years if you keep paying the minimum balance, or at least that's usually what they say, if you have a large balance and you're not paying but more than the minimum. So we want to help you with any tools that you may need to help your credit improve, or how to use and improve. So someone has a 750 credit score, let's help you partner with someone who maybe needs to use that credit to help finance a deal. And we'll teach you how to construct and put together joint ventures or agreements that allow you to partner with others, whether it be someone who's a friend, or someone who's a family member, or even someone who you never met, but you have now built a relationship because maybe you have met them through our Facebook group. And we'll absolutely help you with income, cash flowing properties. I don't think that I have ever bought a property that wasn't cash flowing. Absolutely, my principal residence, I bought it and I did not think about cash flow on it because we were buying it for ourselves. But when I'm buying a rental property, it almost always has had cash flow. Or I have to make sure that I pivot. Like Kemba said, we've got to fix it, because I don't want to be taking out of my household every month to pay for the expenses associated with a property that I bought to build wealth. We teach you how to analyze properties, how to buy and put together, whether you want active properties that you want to hold, because many of us desire having that rental property. Some of us are like, Andrea, I never want to be a landlord. I never want to do property management. And so you might be best suited for some passive investments in real estate that give you great returns. And I'm not talking about, your 3% that you might get at a bank, or 1%. I'm talking about, 8, 10, and double-digit returns on your investment. And then, of course, we'll always make sure that we show you places that you can buy and you can get in under 200,000, places that you can buy and getting under $500,000, right? Because they're not here in the GTA, but there's absolutely many places that you can buy. Kemba, I think we are at our time.
I was just saying to folks if they could give us another 5 to 10 minutes, and we'll
Yeah,
wrap
we
up.
apologize, peeps. You asked some great questions along the way, and we loved hearing about you. But our wealth building series would follow this. It would begin in March, and it would be a weekly session for 6 weeks, starting March 10th, Kemba? March 10th. It's Wednesdays 7 till 8:30. And for right now, we have an amazing low price of $399, where we give you the option to pay in different payment plans. But for Kemba, do we show any of that tonight? I think that they would have to get the link.
No, you'd have to go. We don't break it down in here, but
Yeah.
you definitely could take a
So
look.
we do
what
have
for you.
options on how to pay, but the weekly sessions will give you all that you need to know from starting where you are, making sure that you budget and, get rid of debt, to getting to, the various locations that you can buy in that are affordable and fit in your price point. And they may
Andrea,
not.
Vanessa just made a comment, and I just want to
Sure, go ahead.
Vanessa, you just asked if we can speak to international investing. We are just about to invest in the US this year, so you should come on that journey with us as we go that way.
And yes, we've bought abroad in other parts of the world, but principally we have bought and owned here in Canada, but we are now in the US as well.
Yeah. So starting
and
March,
we're excited about that too. So we will not be just staying in one place in the US. We want to be in multiple states.
Yes. Okay, so starting March 9th, join us.
And yes, we own out of province, so we would absolutely recommend that you look at out of province. Some of our last sessions that we did, some of our attendees from the course actually went on to buy themselves out of the province as well. And Kemba and I both own outside of Ontario. We're also in Alberta. And so there are great opportunities in other provinces.
Yes.
But finish your session. You were saying.
Yes, in terms of the sessions, so part one, we have 6 group coaching sessions with ourselves and other experts. We have credit repair consultations as needed, so we're not going to do that for everyone, but if you feel like you need help with that credit piece, budgeting workshop, so in terms of looking at what's the budget for home ownership. We have a Secrets to Success course replays, which we talk a lot about the minute details of owning and really understanding that purchasing process and purchasing with cash flow, like Andrea mentioned. We also offer you a live one-on-one as needed and a copy of our Credit Repair Simplified book. We also offer you a 90-day money back guarantee. So we'd like you to join the Wealth Building series and learn with us, learn from us, and go on to actually, get some success for yourself. 2022 is a year to start. I know it seems like, there's so many obstacles, but we don't want you to focus on that. We want you to focus on how you can get in and how you can succeed. So we're offering that money back guarantee because we know that you'll be able to do something great once you've had the opportunity to learn. And it's a community type building. So we're working in groups, we're working together, we're answering questions, and we're helping you move to that next step. We'd also like you to join our Facebook group. Yeah, so
we didn't give the link there, so maybe you can just have Marcia type in the chat the link, because some people are just asking, when do we sign up? How do we get started? Where is the information for that? And so if you could just put it in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
And someone said, thank you, Andrea. Oh, well, she's got an amazing name. Andrea, thank you. That is such a great deal. I totally agree. Because if one thing Kevin and I have done so many times over the years is we spent thousands of dollars to attain the knowledge that we have. And that's why, when we built this series, we wanted to do a lot of this as much free as possible. And whatever we could, we would do it to keep it low, because when we entered a lot of the rooms where we spent tens and twenties of thousands to be in, we didn't see people like ourselves. We didn't see a lot of women, and we definitely didn't see Black women, and we want to change that. We want to make sure that you are represented in the ownership and real estate property ownership, the domain.
Yes. So let's get to the juicy part, giveaways.
So one of the giveaways, we asked that if you could take a picture of you attending this session tonight and post and tag us on Instagram. Hopefully you're on Instagram. Post and tag on Instagram yourself attending the session tonight, and you will be eligible to be put in our draw for one free $25 Amazon gift card. That comes courtesy of one of our our real estate experts, And so that's one. Kemba, sorry, go ahead. The others.
Yeah, so what we're going to give away one free ticket to the wealth building series as well. So tonight, I think, Andrea, what's one question we can ask the group that they can answer?
Well, what was one key concept that we asked you to write down on your notepad? And it started with a K. The first, is it the first person? Ah, I saw someone, Charlene.
Charlene, she's quick.
Charlene, she was quick. So Marcia, if you could take that down. Charlene was first. Oh yeah, I love it. Look,
wow,
someone said
Kareem,
knowledge
you're a
network.
superstar.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kemba, another, what else are we giving away tonight?
And we're also giving away a free coaching session. So if you're at a place where you're trying to figure out what your next steps are, you can book a free session with us, 30-minute session to just hash out how you can move to that next step. So another question, Andrea, in terms of...
Well, I just wonder how closely they paid attention to what was the purchase price of Kemba's her first home with her partner that she bought. Oh, someone said it. I don't know. Marcia, you get it. I see so many people are so quick at it. They got it. But I don't
Chantal
know
can't win twice. Chantal, I have to give it to the next person.
Yes, the next
you
person
won just twice. You are so quick. You were super quick.
So quick.
The first one was Andrea.
It was Andrea. Okay.
Was it Andrea? Oh, well, then there you go. So Andrea, we're going to have a coaching session with you. Okay.
Or feel free, you can always gift away to someone else that you know can use it.
That's true. That's true.
They'll love you for it.
Yes. And everyone, as we said, me, Karine wants to get that. Everyone we said would be getting a copy of the wealth building booklet. So we'll send that out either tonight or tomorrow. And we'll also be, so with the credit repair, it's something that you'll have to go and download. So we'll send you the link to get it, and we'll send you a coupon code because it's actually a purchasable item. It does have a cost, so you'll have to go download it. We'll give you that coupon for free. You will have a time limit though to use it. So if you really want to get that credit repair simplified, you'll have to use that coupon and you'll have to go get it. We'll send all the details in an email later on.
And so the Amazon gift card, the draw will be on by this Friday, Saturday, we should have that out.
Yes. So anybody this is a great screen to share, or our Facebook screen too, if you want to share and you have to tag us at Keen on You. So I don't know if we can type in the chat our Instagram handle. So if anyone wants to tag us, it's at Keen on.
Oh, you're typing it in? Okay.
And we will reach out to you with the winning Amazon card.
No, I see some thank yous, but we want to thank you all for joining us and for showing up and, making time in your schedule to join us tonight and begin, what we know is needed in our community, which is this knowledge and this, we are known for working as a community, and maybe we've dropped the ball over the years and we've been spread here, there, and everywhere across the map. But we want to change that and start working together going forward and making sure that we help each other, right? We provide the support that we need and the systems that we need. And of course, the partnerships, because you're going to need some partnerships to be able to do this. And someone said, shout out to G98.7 for playing your adjacent to the pullover to write it. Yeah, so nice. We did use G98.7 this year for sharing this session because we saw how powerful and necessary it was last year in our first annual. And, with supporters and great people that we know, we decided that G98 was the place to share what we have going on this year. So
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yep. G98.7 got me here as well.
Verona, we'll have a way for you to book us if you need to as well. I see
Yeah,
that
with
you're
the silly
saying.
spell check. Well, the Keen, just so that you know, the Kean, Ke is for Kemba and An is Andrea. So that's how we got our name. So we knew that if we just said Keen, you would be thinking Keen. So I think the person who put it together for us was very right in giving you the correct spelling. This was amazing. Our community needs this totally. Let's do it together, peeps. Let's dream it, think it, and make it happen.
Absolutely. So we're hoping to see all of you in our Facebook group. Just click the link, find us, and come in. We want to continue the conversation.
Yes.
Okay, guys, have a wonderful night. It was amazing. We're so happy to have you here, and we will talk to you. We'll talk to you March 9th because all of you are going to sign up and join us.
Yes, for sure. We're looking forward to it.
Okay.
And keep in touch. Join us for the next 3. Kemba, we
Yes,
should have
yes.
music to go out. Some like
It's true. Where's the music?
We need some music. We got to get better at that. We need a DJ. Come on, DJ.
Okay, guys, have a good night.